The Russian aggression against Ukraine has reopened the discussion about cyber weapons and how states use them during conflicts. Furthermore, analyzing the 2017 Cyberattack NotPetya case helps contextualize current events. The harmful acts affecting cyberspace are numerous and constantly growing. However, there are specific cases that manage to provide landmarks for the study. One such case that can be considered a turning point is the NotPetya cyberattack. This video will analyze the cyberattack, including its consequences and repercussions. The NotPetya attack, launched on June 27, 2017, was devastating and harmful. A state-sponsored cyber-attack targeted systems in Ukraine to infect them and destroy data, but it quickly spread globally, affecting numerous organizations. The malware exploited multiple companies and government agencies' computer system vulnerabilities to destroy data and stop their operations. It started in the afternoon, a day before the Ukrainian Constitution holiday. This decision had a symbolic significance and was strategic. Before national holidays, many workers were already on leave, among them IT operators who were responsible for the system's functionality. Several sectors and infrastructure were affected. Starting with the Ukrainian government, the operations of key government agencies were disrupted by the attack, mainly through a loss of key critical data and a temporary but destructive paralysis of government functions. Banks, financial institutions, energy and utilities sectors were also among the primary targets. In addition, even the health sector was targeted, as the data of some patients was compromised. Although Ukraine was the first state to get hit, the repercussions of the attackers' actions were also felt in other countries, including the United States, Great Britain, and Germany. That happened because the malicious software was able to spread quickly across computer networks outside of Ukraine. Nonetheless, it must be stressed that Ukraine was the primary target of the attack. The responsibility for the cyber attack was attributed to a group of Russian hackers known as the Sandworm Team, recognized as one of the military units of the Russian intelligence service GRU. Therefore, the action has been attributed to the Russian state. It was not the first time this group of hackers was accused of a cyber attack against Ukraine. In fact, in 2015, suspicions rose that the Ukrainian electricity grid had malfunctioned because of them. Moreover, the study of the previous attacks carried out by the group led cybersecurity experts to conclude that the Sandworm Group had also attacked in 2017, as they recognized the use of particular coding techniques typical of the group. The attack began primarily on the servers of MEDOC, a widely used Ukrainian program for managing tax payments and returns. However, it was documented that a phishing campaign could have been an intrusion vector too. The malicious software spread by exploiting several of the Windows operating system's vulnerabilities. It displayed a request for update approval on the attacked computers. If accepted, it launched a damaging payload, encrypting files and causing the infected system to be non-functional. The malicious software infected the computer's master boot record and the hard disk. However, before making the computer unusable, it always tried to spread to other computers. With the server attack, hackers could steal users' passwords to make the advance easier. After users noticed the system failure, it seemed they could recover the data through a Bitcoin payment. However, even after making the payment, recovering the inaccessible data and repairing the computers were impossible. As it became apparent, it was hopeless due to the main goal of the cyber attack, which was to cause destruction, not to gain finances. Especially in Ukraine, the demand for money to retrieve data was used as a distraction. As a result, it is more appropriate to refer to NotPetya as a wiper rather than ransomware. Because of that, the malicious software used in the attack was named NotPetya to stress the difference from the Petya family despite their similarities. To begin with, NotPetya is generally recognized as another type of malicious software. However, this ransomware's primary purpose is not the destruction of data. Several times, the data owners were able to restore the computer's operation and recover it through cryptocurrency payments. For this, it succeeded as an attack on financial grounds. Unlike NotPetya, attributing culprits is challenging, as the attack is attributed to a diverse set of hacker groups. Given the attack's scope and how it targeted thousands of organizations and individuals worldwide, stopping it was difficult. Since many countries were affected, the search for an answer was carried out by multiple researchers. The idea was to try to find a way to contain the spread of the malicious software. As the first step, the need to isolate infected computers was understood as crucial to preventing the spread of the malware. NotPetya behaved like a worm, and limiting its interactions was the most apparent solution to block the spread. Moreover, employees of possible wiper targets were informed of the threat and told to be more careful and vigilant. In addition, it became evident that the malicious software looked for the presence of perfc or perfc.dat files before attacking another computer. The reason was that these files were able to identify whether the computer had been compromised or not. As a result, creating them was sufficient to deter the wiper. The NotPetya attack, due to its scope and destructiveness, triggered new cooperation in finding the culprits on an international level. In February 2018, the United States, the United Kingdom, Denmark, Lithuania, Estonia, Canada, and Australia met to agree on a joint response with the support of New Zealand, Finland, Norway, Latvia, and Sweden. The collaboration between these states was crucial to identifying the group responsible for the cyber attack. To quickly identify the culprit, the affected countries shared as much information about the wiper as possible. The attack highlighted the need to work together to send a message to nations that intend to use cyberspace as a new conflict space. For this reason, various countries, mainly the United States, have decided to take the path of sanctions against Russia since 2018. Sanctions, especially in the case of NotPetya, were effective in restricting Russia's access to the international market and limiting its potential to gain even more competence in cyberspace. More specifically, the sanctions effectively restricted Russia's access to technological resources, as well as the possibility of sharing information and collaborating with other nations. Despite the state's reactions to the attack and the techniques used to deter the future use of malicious software or wipers, Russia has not ceased its subversive activities. The Russian hackers are working alongside the army to weaken the technological resilience of the Ukrainian armed forces through sophisticated techniques that compromise the stability of the operating systems used for the state's internal security. Despite attempts to refine Ukraine's national cybersecurity, cyber attacks are part of a campaign that is too massive and difficult to block. In 2022, the hacker members of the group Sandworm attempted to destroy the computers of a Ukrainian energy company using a wiper similar to NotPetya, the so-called Indestroyer, an attack specifically created to destroy the system's MD6, erase data, or make them unusable. Indestroyer 2 is considered the most potent and worrying cyber attack since the beginning of the aggression against Ukraine. According to the highest Ukrainian charges, the attack had been foiled before it produced a total blackout. However, the Russian hackers still attempted to hit the Ukrainian power company again. The attack aimed to turn off the Ukrainian computers in charge of network control. Armed conflicts between the two states' armies have also weakened Ukraine's ability to respond quickly and effectively to cyber attacks. However, this is just one example of a series of attacks that have hit the government and financial systems of the Ukrainian state. Despite the large number of attacks, for now, it does not appear that their effectiveness is high enough to have a significant impact on the stability of the Ukrainian state. This apparent ineffectiveness may be caused by the fact that cyber attacks have not yet proved sufficient by themselves. Instead, they are used alongside the conventional conflict. The NotPetya cyber attack has proven to be a decisive warning in the evolution of threats brought about by the digital age. 6 years later, the impacts continue to be felt. The effect of NotPetya was felt worldwide, with more than 60 countries affected, causing widespread disruption and financial losses. It was one of the warning signs suggesting what Russia is capable of. Although the Russian attacks, undoubtedly prepared for some time, have a structured and evolved approach aimed at the constant bombardment of the enemy's cyberspace, they have not particularly affected the ability of Ukraine to resist the invasion.